Hi everyone, myself Bhagyashree and today I'm going to share about the Angular interview question which I experienced and which I faced, and I think that will be beneficial for you as well as, and let's start with that. Okay, so I will categorize already in the three sections. First is a beginner, then intermediate, then expert level. Then after that also we have a scenario based question. Like they are already given some scenario and have to be asked like what you do on this thing, what you validate, how to maintain the security and all. So that type of question is also I am covering here. So let's start with that. First question they are asking if you are working on the Angular. What is the Angular and what is the key feature? Why we are using the Angular? Why not the other UI as a framework? So you see, Angular is a TypeScript-based front-end web application framework, and it follows the MVC architecture. It is used to build front-end and single-page applications that run on the JavaScript. So it targets both the browser and the server, and it is like framework, not a tool. Like it is a framework which we have to be like both side option, front end, back end, like that. Like you just create the types using the TypeScript, you can create the back end side, the server side also over there, and it is a full-fledged framework. Like it takes care of many aspects of the front-end application such as HTTP request, routing, layout, forms, reactivity, validation, etc. Coming to the key features, why we are going with the Angular, why not some other? So it is like components by architecture. Application are written as set of the independent components, and parts can be tested and integrated using the Angular CLI, and then great support for the complex animation without writing the much code. Then because of the component router, Angular support automatic code splitting, hence the code required to render a particular view is loaded. So cross-platform application development is also one of the features. Template syntax for the creating UIV is a feature. So if they are asking why you have to go with the Angular, not with the other one, so you just mention this of the key aspect and key features. Then they are asking about the difference between the Angular and AngularJS. So here you have to be give the comparison why this is a good, why this is a not good, what is a trending now, right now, as you are a developer, what you are using Angular or AngularJS. So you have to give the answer on this. So there is a multiple points which we can compare as a differentiation between the Angular and AngularJS. First, we are comparing with the architecture. In the Angular, we have a architecture is like it is a make use of the directive and component, and AngularJS having a support model view design. Coming to the language, in the Angular we are using the TypeScript, and in AngularJS we have a JavaScript. For the mobile support purpose, we have to be Angular offer the mobile support. AngularJS, unlike Angular, I will say like AngularJS does not offer the mobile support. Coming to the routing point, routing is nothing but I will say it is a navigating your URL. So route configuration is used to define the routing information in the Angular. In the AngularJS, we have a route provider. Similarly, we have a dependency injection, one of the features, with one of the module building block, I will say, and it support a hierarchical dependency injection along with the unidirectional tree-based change direction in the Angular. And in the AngularJS, it does not support dependency injection. So that's why Angular is more prominent right now using by the many developers. Then coming to the structure wise, Angular have a simplified structure, make it easy for the professional to develop and maintain the large application easily. For the AngularJS, it is a comparatively less management. Syntax wise, I will say like Angular uses the function to bind an event, while square bracket like bind a property. Like I will say better word, single like single, or what I can say unidirection binding and two-way binding. So this is the symbol which we have to be used. In the AngularJS, it requires professional to use correct ng directive to bind a professional an event. The next question we have to be faced like what are the different types of data binding in Angular? As I already mentioned, I'm going from the basic to advanced level. I'm just covering from the initial level what they are have to be starting, and after that, if you are comfortable, then they are grilling onto more into the depth. So I will discussing that question in one by one, step by step, as a categorize beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. So the next question we have different types of data binding in Angular. So we have in the Angular one-way data binding, two-way data binding. Then after that binding, we have a question about the component. So we have to be know like what is the component. It is the main building block of the Angular application, and in this, like for the example, you are creating one of the e-commerce website or e-commerce web app. You have a admin, you have a payment, you have a like dashboard. So these are the component which we have to be communicate from one to another one. So how we are have to be communicate between these components. So for that, what we are doing in the Angular. So these are the question which we have to be prepare. So for the component communication, we have a multiple ways. First is you can go with the input property, parent to child, and second we have a output property with event emitter child to parent. Then we have a service which is like unrelated component, and next we have a view child and content child, parent to child. When we have to be pass the data from parent to child, we will try with the we will go with the view child and content child, one of the options. And after that we have a NGRX, which is state management technique, that is also we are using for the component communication. Basically, if you are going with the reactive model, and that time it is a very beneficial, and we have to be using this property state management technique. And if you want to see the practical coding wise, the project wise, so you see like we have a communication from component to component or parent to child component. We have an option go with the view child and content child. Then we have a NGRX statement technique. Then we have a route like route parameter. So I'm just telling, if you want to see this practical approach how I implemented in my project, please comment it down. In the next video, I will create all the point which is I'm covering here with the practically showing. This is the input decorator. This is the output decorator. This is the NGRX which is I'm using for the state management. So I'm already working on this .NET with the uh, Angular component with the Azure. So if you want, I will create the next in the upcoming video regarding this Angular as a front end, backend purpose for the .NET Core REST API, and for the deployment side, I am using the Azure. So I will create all the stuff into one component of one video if you comment it down. Then yeah. So now this is the answer which we can give for the communication purpose in the component level. Then next we have a how do you handle the event in the Angular component. So we can handle the event in Angular using the event binding, event handler, and event emitter. I already attached a snapshot from the code level. You see we have a event binding. So event binding is allowed to view to communicate and change back to the component when an event occurs. Event means you are just clicking submit button or view button like that in the UI page. That is the one of the event. So on the clicking on that, any function you are calling, so that is a event binding, like you are calling one of the functions, and inside that you are building your business logic, you are calling some inside logic over there. So this is the event binding. You see, this is the function which we are using for the on click. When we are clicking on the click me button, this function will be getting called. Next, you see we have an event handler. So in the event handler, in the component class, we have to define the event handler method that will be called when an event occurs, and this method can be parameter to capture the event data passed by the event object. For the good understanding, for the good way, we have to be see this code also. I have a my component class, and on this you see I have a on click method, and inside that I just passing the one of the console.log just button click for checking purpose. Then after this we have a event emitter. Event emitter means it allows child component to communicate with the parent component by emitting the custom event. I already discussed before this question, we have to be calling input decorator, output decorator. So when you are using the output decorator, that time this event emitter you can use for passing the data from parent to child one. See, already discussed, and I already attached the code also. Child component class we have, and in this I have a output decorator and calling this event emitter. From this, when I have to be passed this to my child one, you just see on not click, this is my event dot emit, and event data will be trigger. Next we have a directive and pipe questions. So in the directive and pipe question, the question they are asking like what are the directive and their types in Angular. So in the Angular directive we have component directive, attribute directive, structural directive, and in the UI level we have to be implement also how it is look, how we are adding as a features, or how we are changing at a UI level using this directive. So in the component directive, this is the directive which is coming with the template and most common type of directive. It is like customizing, and you can use in your component level. Then next we have the attribute directive. In this, these are the directives that can change the appearance of component page or even other directive. And this following command is used to create an attribute directive. So you see I have a command ngg directive with the abc. So after attribute directive, I have a structural directive which is responsible for the change in the DOM layout, either by adding or removing the DOM element. And every structural directive representing with the stars and default we have to be applied. Then if you are already mentioned the custom directive, you have to explain how we have to be create. They are asking like how you are creating the custom directive. So just give the step if already developed, and if you're not, you see I already attach here screenshot how we are creating the custom directive. Create a TypeScript class for your custom directive. This class should be decorated with the directive decorator. Then next you have to be like one of the selector property, which is a decorator to specify the CSS selector that identify where the directive should be applied. Next we have a inject element reference, one of the second point, which is services, which is we have to be inject into the constructor of your directive classes, and these services provide the access to host element to which the directive is applied. And next you just have to be just element reference to native element to access the DOM element and apply the custom functionality. And in the constructor you see I have this element reference and applying the background color xyz like red, blue, green, what the color you want to give. Then after this we have a registry directive, one of the features, one of the way to use the custom directive. You need to declare it in the declaration array of the Angular module where it will be used. If the directive used in the multiple module, you can create a shared module and import into the module where the directive is needed. See, I have the shared module and I imported custom directive here, and in the module you see importing this one as a declaration and exporting this custom directive. Next we have a use directive in HTML. To apply the custom directive to an HTML element, use the selector specified in the directive decorator. See, this is the directive decorator, which is the page we have to be applied. Next question we have about the services and dependency injections. So they will asking like what are the services and their benefit in Angular. So the services, as uh, it is a, like as a simple word, it is a shared Between the multiple component, we have to create once, and multiple times multiple component can be used. So it is giving the reusability of your application. So a service primary goal to exchange the functions and data with various Angular application component. To define a services, use the injectable decorator, and any component or directive can call a function specified inside the services. So this is the definition and definition of the services, I will say. And the key benefit of the services, why we are using the services in the Angular. You see, we have a code reusability, dependency injection. Dependency injection is a simple word, it is a design pattern which we have to be give the flexibility to derive and once and use every time. Then we have a single responsibility principle. It means you have to be one region to change, not multiple things you have to apply in a single class to perform the your logic. Then we have a state management. Then after that we have a scalability. Next we have a question like describe the best practicing for the using services in Angular. Um, I already added some cases. You see, uh, when don't include the business logic in your services when services should be used for providing functionality, not for the implementing the business logic. So business logic should be implemented in component or other classes that are specific to your application domain. Then next point I will consider, make sure your services are testable. Service should be designed in a way that make them easy to test. So this is the mean avoiding using global state or other external dependency, and instead of relying on dependency injection to provide any necessary functionality. Then third point I will consider, use interface to define your services. It means like it can help to make your code more modular and maintainable. It also make it easier to use other library and tools that rely on the interfaces. Then next point I will consider, keep your service small. Service should be designed to provide a specific functionality rather than attempting to handle the everything at once. As already mentioned before this point, single responsibility principle we have to apply here. Then next point, avoid using the services to handle the view logic. It is a services business logic, which is we have to be like sharing the common things every component. We don't have to perform the view things inside that. So service should be used to provide the functionality that can be shared across the multiple component. They should not be used to handle the view related logic. So what should be implemented in the component themselves. Then next about routing and navigation component. Then in that we have a question like what are the different types of routing in Angular. So in the Angular we have a routing four main types. First is a component routing, child routing, lazy loading, and last one dynamic routing. And for this routing mechanism I already attached the screenshot also. You see how this routing look like. In the component routing you see I created one of the constant variable which is we are in which we are including all the home, about, contact, menu options. When we are clicking on this it will be redirecting to this respective component. In the child routing you see it is used to navigate between the child component, like we have a parent, one of the main menu, then we have a sub menu like that. Similarly, that concept we are using here like parent and child routing. So child routing is used to navigate component between child component and parent component, and this parent component serve as a container for the child component, and the URL for each child component is defined as a child root of the parent component. You see I have a path home, which is component have a home component, and when you are clicking on this you see other two options, about and contact. So this is acting as a child component and this is acting as a parent component, a container I will say. Then next we have a lazy loading. Lazy loading is a technique in which module is loaded only when it is needed, rather than loading all modules at the start of the application, and this can help reduce the initial load time of your application, especially if it has a many modules. Like if you are visiting your Amazon website or Amazon web app, you log in and you want to only see the women clothes, then why you have to be load other stuff like man related or kid related things. So we have to apply the lazy loading over there, and which will be giving the performance wise better compared to like when we have to load all the component or all the business logic again and again. So with the help of lazy loading concept, you see I have to be write like this. We have a home path. In the help of load children, we are importing the home model, similarly for the about, similarly for the contact. Then next we have a dynamic routing. Dynamic routing is a technique in which the routing configuration is generated dynamically based on the data that's available at runtime. In this, like we don't know, basis on some dynamic data, we have to be created a tree shape like that. So that time which we can use as a dynamic routing. It is a complex level for the dynamic point of view. Uh, so you just have to be just ID basis on that. We have to be create the routing with the component. Then we have question about how to configure the routing in an Angular application. So first we have to install the Angular router in your CMD, then define the routes. For installing, you have to be just type the npm install Angular router. For the defining route, you have to write like this. In your application, define the route for the different pages in the app routing modules TS file, and define the array of routes where each object specify the path, component to render, and additional configuration. Like we are mentioning the path about, and when we have to be navigating on the about, it will open the about component. Then we have a next configure router outlet. In your root component template file, usually app.component.html file, add an element, and this is where to Angular will render the component associated with the current root. See here, the syntax you see, we have a router outlet here. Then next we have a configure navigation, and in this we are using the router link to direct you in your HTML template to navigate between different routes, and this router link direct you generate a link based on the specify the route path. This is the syntax which we have to be use router link. Then next we have a handle the route parameter. So in this you can define the routes with the parameter to pass the data between the component or to specify the dynamic path. You see we have a path product slash id and component product detail component. Then next option we have a import app routing model. In this which we see uh, importing the app routing model in your root model enable routing in your Angular application. You see app routing model one of the file which we are importing here. App component importing browse model similarly for this app routing model, and we have a providers and we have a bootstrap. Inside that this will be helping. So that's one of the level I will say fundamental question in the Angular I already covered. Next I will start for the fundamental to just beginner level, like just little bit one step ahead I will say. Till now what I cover, this is the basic fundamental question for the Angular. Okay, so you know the basic concept. Now we have to be know about the how does an Angular application works. So every Angular application consists of file named Angular JSON file, and this file contain all the configuration of the app. Like it will be building the app. The builder looks at the file to find the entry point of the application. So all this stuff is mentioning here. You see what is the content here in the Angular.json file. Then inside the build section, see the main property of option object is define the entry point of applications. If you just create one of the small mini project, you get the idea about the what is the angular.json file containing. I will request to please create one. Otherwise, if you want to how this Angular application will work practically in the video, please comment it down. I will create in the next one upcoming video. This is the steps which is I already written here. How this Angular application works. Okay. After this, they are asking benefit of using the Angular. So you just mention like Angular facilitates the bidirectional data coupling. Architecture is MVC pattern. Both Angular and static template are supported. It makes adding a custom directive easier. Then we have a RESTful services which is also supported. Angular provides the functionality for the validations. Client and server communication is enabled by the Angular. Then support for the dependency injection is offered. It has a strong feature like animations, event handler, and much more. So this is the reason which we have to be consider the Angular application for the UI. Then next question we have, what is the purpose of TypeScript in Angular development? Why not some other one? So there is a multiple benefit which we have to be considered in the TypeScript, and that's why it is added in the Angular development. First, we have a static typing, enhanced tooling, better code organizations, and improved readability and compatibility with the existing JavaScript code. So this is the reason which we are taking care of that and choosing the TypeScript file with the Angular. The next question is about the explain the concept of data binding in Angular and different types. So data binding is a mechanism that allows synchronization of data between the model and the view and making it easier to manage update user interfaces efficiently. For the better example, for the better understanding, I have this picture, just see. Okay, so now next question I have about the concept of data binding in Angular and its different types. So data binding is a mechanism that allows synchronization of data between the model and the view, making it easier to manage and update the user interfaces efficiently. You see, I have this view component in the template and it is a model. So for this communication purpose, synchronization data between the model and view, making it easier to manage and update user interfaces efficiently. That's why this data binding is here. And for that we have a variation also, types of data binding. First we have a total we have a four types of data binding. First we have a property binding. For the property binding, how it's look, you see syntax, it is a one of the property in the class I mentioned and variable name. Then we have a event binding. In the event binding you see how it is look like, button click, show event, and that method will be called here. Then we have a next string interpolation, and this involves displaying the component data in the view by enclosing the property expression in double curly braces. The example you see, we have a class equal to double curly braces variable name. This is a one-way data binding, I will say one of the way. Then we have a next two-way data binding. In this, immediate changes to the view and component will be reflected automatically. That is like when the changes are made to the component or model, and then the view will be render the changes simultaneously. Similarly, when the data is altered or modified in the view, then the model or component will be updated accordingly. So this is a concept which is we are getting in the Angular, but if you are going with the React, this is the concept for the two-way data binding is not there. Next, the question have to be like explain the concept of single page application. So single page application is a website that load a single document and override the existing one with the new data from a web server instead of reloading pages individually from the beginning. Due to this ability, the page of content update in the real time based on the user action with quick transition and without refreshing. And next, the ability to provide the new content seamlessly based on the user action, such as button click, make single page applications stand out from their counterparts. And instead of refreshing the entire page, the application update or alter component based on the user's action and needs and make it quick to respond and easy to interact with the real time. If you want to know like how many website right now in the market, Danton website will say like in the market have a single page application. Please comment it down. I will discuss and I will explain in the upcoming video. Okay. Right now you see already in the market we have a Angular 17. So before the Angular 17, what we have right now in the Angular 17, what we have to be compare and we have to be curiosity about the knowledge, what we are getting the extra, what we are getting the changes in the Angular 17. So this is the some point which will be observed as Angular 17 latest one compared to old one. So first point I will say we have a declarative control flow, then like for loop and all that will be control flow which we are using, and then we have a deferred loading blocks, then we have a view transition API support, then we have a support for passing a component or style as a string, then we have Angular's animation code is lazy loadable. You see if you are working on the Angular 17 TypeScript 5.2 support, then we have a core signal API is now stable. Single base signal based component are not ready yet, so they won't be a part of this Angular 17. Then Node.js v60 support has been removed and the minimum support version v18.13.pr is available. Then we expect that ESBuild will be default builder and the default dev server will use V8 or white. This is also we are using in the React application for the like building the React application. So this is the point which we are seeing in the new in the Angular 17. If you want to more such video or more detail about this Angular 17, how it is working and how we have to create the component function or mini project, please comment it down. I will make definitely this Angular 17 video creating one of the mini project. The next question they are asking, what are the decorator in Angular? So in the Angular we have a decorator, class decorator, property decorator, method decorator, parameter decorator. Then after that we have a Angular template. So what is the Angular template they are asking? So the Angular template are nothing but it is HTML and features Angular specific element and properties. And this template are merged with the information from the model and controller, which is then rendered to present the user with the dynamic view. So in an Angular component, there are two ways to construct a template: link template and inline template. In the link template, you see this is the example template URL component.html, and in the inline C we have a small set of snippet code which is already we are mentioning here itself only. Template, hello name, how are you, welcome to interview. So in the inline template you see we have a template with a small snippet of code, and see we have a template which is hello, and by single binding unit direction binding, hello name, how are you, and welcome to Bhagyashree Tech channel. So in the linking we are maintaining the path, and in the inline we are writing the small snippet of code directly there only. Okay, after this we have a question about the Angular annotation. So Angular annotation is a hard-coded language features, and annotation are mergely metadata that is set on a class to reflect the metadata library. So when a user annotate a class, compiler add an annotation property to the class, serve the annotation array in it. So you see, you already use the observable. So observable as output, as an array output, we are using the Angular annotation. One other example. Then I have a okay. So now I already covered most of the important question which is asked, and in the next video I will discuss and I will share as experience level like intermediate to expert level, and with the some scenario based question also. And if you want that video, please comment it down below this video. I will upload and I will create the next video which will be like very useful as experience level, as a scenario based question. You want to know how it is working when you have to give in a situation like that, how you have to be implement the Angular component, what are the features you have to be added, related most of the question, which is I will discuss. And please if you want, please like, share and subscribe this channel. It will be helping and motivating for me to making a such content like that. And hope you got some valuable information from this video. Happy coding. Thank you.